give it one more second. I'm going to actually do a clap because that does help. Welcome to Purple Politics, brought to you by Purple Banter. We're going to really start changing up what Purple Politics is all about. This started as Zoom calls, chatting with friends about different political things that have been going on. But really where Purple Politics is like sometimes my relationship or our relationship together, what we've been having. We're so different. We think so different about politics and different cultural things that are going on. Our relationship really started like this. So we got Elof Altoma in the house, soon to be Elof Stead. And welcome to the program. She's going to be the new co-host, so welcome her.
Yeah, woo! Really, really excited to be here and just have an opportunity to share a little bit more about what brings us together, what gets us fighting, and just how we both look at the world from just such different perspectives. I myself would identify as a progressive Democrat. I'm originally from Iraq, born in the midst of the Gulf War, and came to America as a refugee and really grew up living in poverty here in America and California specifically, and just fought my way through to be able to get an education, got my bachelor's degree at UC Santa Barbara in sociology, and then took it to another level and got my master's at Harvard in education and prevention science and practice, and really just understanding how to support young people of color, first generation undocumented immigrant youth, and in their pursuit for more in life. And so definitely a different experience than this guy over here. Well, Middle East to the Midwest.
Right. And, so as I've always kind of said on this program, I'm a little bit more right. I certainly am one of the people that are comfortable with saying that I'm more right. I've always called myself a conservative. I do like some Republicans that are out there, but I've never found any political individual ever being something that I'm like, oh, I could like give my voice to them. Like they have like the voice that identifies the best with me. It's gotten continually more confusing, and our relationship blossomed in this era of Trumpian politics, which is like highly corrosive and divisive and confusing. And our relationship really sparked when we were having one of our first breakfast dates. And I'm like, I'm a little bit more conservative.
And I'm not.
And you're looking at me from across the table being like, oh, this isn't like a red flag. This is like I can't talk to you. Like this is a never.
We had some pretty feisty first conversations. We definitely realized pretty quickly that we have such different perspectives, but what was nice is that we were able to really talk them through and understand each other. We were still able to see humanity in the other side, right? Even though we argued and butted heads and disagreed, I feel like our relationship has given me just more understanding of the other side.
Yeah. And so I hope like as we kind of grow towards this, as politics continue to get more divided, I want this to be a place where individuals can come and say, like, there's this couple that's willing to get on the couch and talk about all of the stuff. It's always coming from a place of love, but also we're both not concerned with saying things of like, yo, this is what I believe, because we're not scared of like losing each other's trust. We're like, oh, because we know where both of our hearts lie, but the playbook of how we get there sometimes is different.
Yeah, and that's definitely what I've like grown to learn and be more aware of, is that like we have the same like values. We care about the same things. We want to change the same things, but how we get there is so different. And I think our experiences in Watts has also just opened up my eyes, just being on the left, just understanding just how things really are getting done on the ground, right? And how these different programs and things that I personally have benefited from, right? But just seeing how they can also just be so negatively impactful, right, in these communities. And it's just giving me a better understanding of like why there's a Republican Party to the sense of like I get why there's this frustration within our political system, right? In these government agencies that sometimes become just so big that's like where's the impact, right? And seeing that on the ground level working in Watts has definitely opened up my eyes to it. Now, do I still believe in the power of our democracy and these programs and the impact that they actually have on like being able to create just more of a sustainable life for so many people who can't afford it, right? But yeah, it's just interesting to like be able to just understand the other side more.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So like right now we're in a place where we have a nonprofit, Love Wins, that we work on together. You really spearhead. You are the executive director, and a lot of our programming comes one inspired by community members, but then kind of ends up being executed by you a lot of the time. And it's cool to see what we've been able to grow towards, and that's exactly why I hope to be able to show over time that like through conversation we can actually realize that there are huge lies that aren't real.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest lies that would be differences in our life is like me being this white guy, Midwestern Christian from Minnesota, soon to marry this, beautiful Iraqi, Muslim, like lefty, like all of the stuff that like we're supposed to like disagree on, right? Like culture has told us that like there's no way you get along, literally to the point where like it was okay to bomb your country, and all these Americans were like, "Yup, like that's where evil rests. Go get them." When your story of how you even got to the States was like, well, shit, like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I am here due to U.S. involvement in the Gulf War,
right?
And them and their positions with putting Saddam into power, giving him the weapons, and then him getting too powerful that they didn't like it, and then U.S. literally telling my dad and people like him to go fight against Saddam Hussein. And that's why I was able to gain citizenship here so quickly, was because of the U.S. involvement from even before 9/11, right? In Iraqi politics and how things are done there. And I've just, again, seen this government completely disrupt what's happening in Iraq. And it's never been able to recover since.
And that's where, one, politically we do this, but also why I'm so like interested in continuing the conversations that we're doing like on a platform like this is the fact that media does a weird thing of also being a manipulative arm. And sometimes it's hard to figure out whether like the media stuff covered it, started it, and they whispered into governmental officials, or governmental officials are whispering in the media of saying like, this is the story we're telling. Get on our side or get out.
Well, we're definitely working in partnership to send a certain message and to get people to believe in what's going on, right? Or their version of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And it was just, as just the start of our relationship, like with Trump being in office, there was no breathing room for a person like myself who was like, okay, I don't agree with everything the left is doing. I certainly am bothered by a lot of the things that Trump's doing. But like, I was like in this space where I'm like, I don't agree with both. But I feel a little bit more like my safe place would be like on the right. But my heart would be like, hey, like the left is actually speaking a lot of truth right now. And both entities were like, if you're not with us, you're against us. And you get really stuck in this like middle ground, which ends up being purple.
Yeah. I mean, I was one of those people. I definitely, like, when the whole Trump election happened, like, I was so just hurt, and I saw the impact of that immediately on the students I served, and what that did to our country. And I was that person, right, who was like, I was just so upset and frustrated. I was like, I don't want to talk to, like, I couldn't see myself with a Republican. I couldn't see myself with someone who just didn't understand my frustration. And that's where you're like uniquely different, where you just come into the conversation with so much understanding and patience, and really walk through some of these tougher conversations. But I definitely, when we were first dating, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
There was some hesitation.
And really, I guess one of the reasons that I always say that like I'm a little bit more right, but I'm still like caught in the middle, is one, the empathy on the left. A lot of the root causes of what we're struggling with, the left has pretty good like signaling on, right? But the blueprint of how to do it, I think, doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's we're also in this like kind of clusterfuck of a time where like the government has so much control. There's ways we kind of have to like let them help us get out of this. But when you get to places like Watts when we're serving, you realize in California, in Los Angeles, where there's more millionaires probably per capita than like anywhere in the world. Maybe San Francisco has like a little bit on us with that. None of the resources are actually impacting the places that all of these individuals say. And it's because we went down there with minimal resources. We certainly have like a level of safety and comfort, but like we're still like a young couple like trying to make it happen that are supported by external entities that are helping us do it. And we're like, why is it that like people are going, wow, you're really helping? And we're like, when all the tax system that's supposed to be in theory supporting some of these programs, it doesn't exist. It never gets deployed.
You would think in like one of the poorest housing projects, right, and the youngest, that it would be covered with resources and support. And then you get down to it and you see the red tape and the barriers and the bureaucratic BS that stands in the way of people actually getting the help they needed. You know, it's been really amazing working with an organization like the Change Reaction, it's a privately funded organization that's like, hey, we want to remove those red tapes. If someone needs help, if they need an opportunity, if they need certification, if they need help with their rent, we're going to make it easy for people to get that support. And so I've been able to like help individuals, you know, who are waiting for these government assisted programs to support them. And we've been able to just help them with privately funded grants to say, you know what, let's not wait for that. That's going to take too long. You need this help right now. Right. And it's too often that these systems, there's so much money, but in order to even access the money, it's this huge process.
Yeah.
And there's all these barriers that actually get in the way of people getting the help. And so like, where are the taxes going? Like, where is the money?
So that was one of those situations where I go, this is like my confirmation bias, right? I'm like, I got Elof on this. Like the government doesn't help, right? But then one of the things that it's always been something that I've heard of and tried to understand, but never been like really personally impacted by it, was like the policing, right? And this is something that I go, whoa, the right has it wrong.
I got him.
Like there is totally an over policing issue inside of projects that is devastating, and primarily, not exclusively, because I always get hit with the cops hate it when I do the big brush. They say you are brushing too broadly.
Yet they do that to the children all the time.
Like,
but that's okay.
Young African American boys have so much pressure put on them by the cops and are never looked at as individuals with like rights. They look like they're treated as if they need to earn their rights. And to me, in a weird way, I also like look at this as like a conservative problem, right? Like, you know, conservatives are always like, watch out for Nazi Germany coming back. Like, watch out for, you know, all of these bad, like, communist dictators, blah, blah, blah. This feels like that. This is one of those scenarios where I go, whoa, guys, remember we're the Republican groups that hate the dictators? It's fucking happening.
On the ground level.
So how are you not able to listen to a community that has a universal kind of agreement that like cops aren't serving us well? So that's where we really find ourselves in this unique kind of political purple situation. And I want to continue to this be a program where like we're going to be bringing on a lot of people, So finally, like, I'm opening up the couch to Purple Politics, where we're going to be broadening these conversations with more guests, a lot of the times in person, but sometimes virtually through Zoom. But more importantly, now always Elof is the cohort that is going to be making this happen with us. So we
Yeah.
actually have like Purple truly represented.
I'm here to keep this one in check. All right, when he's stepping out of line and saying some crazy things, okay?
And it's just so interesting the way that these systems continue to try to pull us apart. And what our relationship has been built on these conversations. One,
Yeah.
like where you initially were like, I don't really like this. Luckily, me by being like very small, right, allowed me to be like the bad boy in the start of our relationship. Like I could be the nicest guy, and it was as if I was like driving a Harley and had fucking
Could
face
introduce
tat,
him to my
and-
mom.
and I was the bad boy, right? And all I had to do was like be like, I don't necessarily think I'm left, and that was like, that's being a bad boy. And so, what a funny spot that we got to, where the division that we continue to experience in our culture, we continue to get closer and closer together.
And now we're getting married.
And now we're getting married over it, because we're like, wow, if you believe all these lies too much, like you won't even realize that like the love of your life might be this individual that you're supposed to like.
Hate.
Hate.
Yeah. And that's what the world is telling us, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's telling us to hate. It's telling us to push the others away, right? If they don't agree with you, then they're not with you and they're against you, right? And it's like, actually, I think we all, like, at the end of the day, care about so much of the same things. It's just, again, how we get there, it looks different. And that's a lot to do with your upbringing, what you've experienced, right? And I can't expect you to have the same experiences that I have. I can't expect you to understand what it must be like to be a refugee in this country, right? But I think what's important is to have a conversation around it. And I feel
Right.
like we're pushing so much to be like, I'm not even going to talk to you, or I don't even want to hear that perspective, or
Right.
we're going to agree to disagree, right? But like, I think what we want to create here is a space where we can have those conversations, be able to show and talk about our different perspectives and experiences, and why we believe in what we believe in, and how can we like still at the end of the day like love each other and come together, knowing that like we want different things, of how like we want different things, or we want the same thing, but we get there differently.
Right, and that's where it truly, the jump off point is, we keep on getting told, stop talking to the other side, the other idea, because you're not going to agree with them. You already hate them. Stop talking. And
But that's what's made dating fun, is like we get into these like really, sometimes intense conversations, and it's because
Yeah.
we both like are so passionate and come into it with just so much care and like really thinking about the other, well, like what we're trying to work towards. But I lost my train of thought. What I was
well,
saying.
and it's just like, this isn't going to be a program where it's
Yeah.
like, this isn't like an agree to disagree program. This is a program where it's like, we agree to be honest and to actually like talk it out. And I don't want it to always be a spot where it's like, at the end of the day, this is how you kumbaya. This is how everyone actually will agree. Because that's not going to always happen.
No,
Like,
there's definitely days when we just don't agree.
yeah.
And there's those certain topics, which I'm sure will come up at some point,
Yeah.
And again, I think we have to just understand that, like, we're not going to always agree. We're going to have different perspectives, and that's the fun in it, right? That's the fun in having these conversations. It wouldn't be fun if we all just agreed on the same thing and that was the show.
Right. and I think it's just like, I want to somehow like always take in the different information that mine and your like news feed on our Instagram is just so different. It's like, I'll be like, flipping through a video and she'll like hear it and she's like, what is that? Like, what's being said? Is that Tucker Carlson? And I'm like, look, one of my friends posted it. It was on Occupy Democrats. They're talking about how Tucker's bad. She's like, all right.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's healthy to like know what the other side is saying. Like, I actually watch Fox News just to understand the different perspectives, right? And to have that level of awareness of like, okay, when I'm in an argument, with someone who's been watching Fox News, I understand where you're getting, like, what your thought process is and why you're feeling this way, And I think that's like what we really want to bring is that like understanding of like what are those thoughts and ideas of the other side and where do people meet in the middle. Where is it purple?
And it's so funny because like the more conversations that like I've been having with friends throughout the last like really like 3 to 5 years, when you're talking about like specifically like Fox News or like CNN or MSNBC, and I'd be like, you come to a left friend and you're like, did you hear what MSB, like, they're like, well, that's not really what I think, but that's like what this like larger media arm thinks. And like, so these organizations really feel like they own the pulse of the group. And what sucks is like what ends up happening is because like usually for a long time, they were the only show in town that was even available. When a lot of the right stuff, sadly, is like comedians now that are giving a lot of that information, because I think comedians are some of the only people that are willing to like let it rip. And that's why I like that practice of like doing stand up, because it kind of teaches you to like let it rip and like allow to yourself to continue to be open and have that type of practice. But it also is just the only community that's been able to kind of like breathe through now like the COVID stuff, right? So like now we get to the COVID stuff. Me and you continue to get more and more on the same page with that because it gets crazier.
Oh, okay. We're not going to get into it today because I think everyone is just, we're all tapped out of this COVID conversation. Yeah. I'm at my wit's end with COVID. Happy to say that things are finally starting to just open up a little bit with the mask mandate, but we gotta move forward. Y'all, we gotta move forward with life. We cannot let this hold us back forever. We gotta keep working towards the future.
And so this is what it's gonna be about. It's we're gonna continue to bring topics up that are happening. The world is already flying with wild things that are happening. We're not gonna address that yet, but we're gonna start opening up that platform to let those conversations happen. So thank you so much.
Hold on tight. It's going to be a ride.
This is great. Well, this has been Purple Politics. Love you all and God bless. Thank you so much for coming out. And look at our beautiful new co-host.